Good afternoon, our Love Bay family. It is so good to be back with you. And we have our guest, Dr. Lashanta Smith. You may recall she was with us speaking about testosterone. And we are happy to have her back with us today. And we are speaking about chronic illnesses in marriage, and we're looking at it from a doctor's perspective. Now, she is a wellness practitioner, and we are happy to have her because she has a wealth of knowledge in this area and is able to help us. So we are happy to have her. Dr. Alvin will not be with us this afternoon, but we are so happy to have Chaplain Nathalie Sweden. She is
Good
with,
afternoon.
yes, good afternoon, Chaplain Sweden. And we are ready to begin this session for the afternoon. Now, we've spoke at length about chronic illnesses and how it is so taxing on marriage, especially when one spouse has to now pick up all of the slack, ensure that the children are fine, and also take care of a sick spouse. But Dr. Smith, one of the things we said to our audience during our conversation is that they must not forget themselves, because we can get thrown right into caring for a sick spouse that we forget ourselves. But we are happy that you are with us, and we believe that you can help some of our listening audience, especially those that are going through this period of their life with illnesses in their marriage. So last week we spoke with Dr. Tamika Dames, and she has enlightened us tremendously about mental illnesses in relationship. So today we are taking it from the doctor on wellness. So I am going to make way for Dr. Smith, and she is going to share with us some nuggets as to how to cope with um, chronic illnesses in marriage. So thank you, Dr. Smith.
Okay, hello everyone, and thank you so much, Dr. McDonald. I was on the show before, and we had a great time, an awesome time talking about testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone, so the hormones for men and women. And so I am happy and honored to be back on the show, sharing a different perspective to cancer and other chronic diseases and how it can affect marriages and the relationship as well. And one of the things you said, Dr. McDonald, self-care is so important because oftentimes I've seen the person that's taking care of the sick person also get sick, because it's a lot of stress. It's a lot. Life changes in so many different ways, and it takes a lot on the mental state of the person, the emotional state, physical, finances as well, and in so many other areas. So we encourage them to practice self-care and be mindful because you have to look out for yourself as well. And cancer in particular, and it's a very good time to talk about cancer because it's on the rise and the numbers are scary right now. Statistic shows that in every 3 men, one will wind up with cancer. In every 2 women, one will wind up with cancer. So that's absolutely scary. And so prevention is always better than cure. But unfortunately, some people are already there and they're dealing with this. The marriage is probably suffering as well. And I think this is an important topic, along with other chronic diseases. And so cancer can affect marriages in so many different ways. It can affect the marriage mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, even sexually, because we know any chronic disease will alter the hormones and create libido. And so oftentimes the other partner would have to suffer in that area. It can pull the marriage apart sometimes, sad to say, but not every situation is always like that. Sometimes it affects the marriage negatively, but I've seen some situations where it actually affects the marriage positively. Yes, because sometimes it can draw the couple together even closer. You know, Not everyone does not honor their vows. Some people, they truly honor their vows when it says, in sickness and in health. And so they're there, they're supportive. It helps to deepen the relationship with God as well. Sometimes they get closer to God. And so we've seen some positive things come out of that as well. I'm a firm believer, and I'm working every day to continually condition my mind to knowing and believing that nothing bad happens in life. That's what I believe. Now, I know we've not been trained to think that way, so it's hard to see it that way, but I'm training myself and I'm learning every day to see it as nothing bad happens in life. Anything that happens that God allows to happen, either it's working for us, and if it's not working for us, then it's working on us. And oftentimes there's still glory in a lot of situations. Sometimes your misery can oftentimes become your ministry. And that's my personal story, because I suffered from a lot of chronic conditions, health conditions, and it led me to all of this. And so now this is actually a ministry for me to be able to help other likewise sufferers to heal naturally, holistically, based on just looking at why is the body responding that way. So one thing I would say, I know not every situation is like this, but some situations are. I think transparency is going to be important. So just being totally open in the beginning of a relationship. If we're going in a relationship where we're already experiencing or maybe diagnosed with some chronic health issues, I think being open from the beginning with that partner, even before marriage, and letting them know that this is what I'm dealing with. I'm not totally healthy, because not everybody is prepared to deal with a sick spouse. And so just being open and honest, sometimes that can help the relationship as well. The next partner just needs to be understanding. We need to be able to develop patience as well and show more love and kindness, giving that person, the one who's sick, giving them a reason to live, a will to live, because oftentimes people die because they no longer have that will to live. And when they lose that will, we know what the inevitable will be. But just being there for them, supporting them emotionally and mentally, physically, spiritually as well, will help to give them that will to live. Okay. Now, when I look at cancer or any type of chronic health issues, we oftentimes see it from a different perspective, and therefore our approach is also different. So you never want to know that or think that your body is programmed for diseases. It's not. It's not genetically programmed for that. Your body is always genetically programmed for health and healing. Your body wants to heal you. And the body's never making a mistake. The body's always just trying to protect us, sometimes from us. So the body never makes a mistake, but we do. And sometimes it's knowingly, sometimes it's unknowingly. And oftentimes people would hear, when they get that cancer diagnosis, they would hear that, it's just bad genes and bad luck. And that's not true. That's absolutely not true. Because only 5 to 10% of any cancer is genetic. 5 to 10%, that's a small amount. And the other 90 to 95% is basically what we call epigenetics. And epigenetics is simply the environment in which you put the genes. So not because your grandmother was diagnosed with cancer and died, your mother, your aunt, a few sisters, and cancer is just prevalent in the family, means that you're going to wind up with it. No, it's your health in your hands, and you have the ability to keep your genes in the right environment. So it's never, most times it's not genetics that is being passed down. It's not the genes. Most times it's bad habits, it's bad lifestyle, wrong choices. Just how your mom used to cook is how she taught you to cook. Just how your grandmother used to eat, that's how she taught you to eat. And these are the things that people are learning in this day and time. And that's why you see diabetes prevalent in a family, or cancer prevalent in a family, or mental issues prevalent in a family. It's really epigenetics. And that signals the genes. Now, we can't change our genes. The genes that we are born with is the genes that we're going to die with. But what can change or alter the genes and program them for diseases is your lifestyle, your diet. And that's what we call epigenetics. And just how you have the power to turn it on, you have the power to turn it off. All right. Now, there are many factors that can cause cancer. It's never just one thing. A lot of times patients would come in my office initially with cancer and they want to know what caused my cancer, and they're looking for one answer. It's never one answer. The body is too resilient for one thing to push you into cancer. Okay. It's a collection of diseases. And a lot of times I would hear patients say, I'm pretty much healthy, I feel fine except for the cancer. No, if you have cancer, you've been sick for a very, very long time, even before you were diagnosed, because cancer does not show up overnight. And oftentimes you can have cancer cells processing in your body for up to 8 years and still feel totally fine, for up to 8 years and still get normal lab reports, especially if it's just basic. But cancer does not happen overnight. We lead ourselves there unknowingly and sometimes knowingly as well. All right. So a tumor can develop into cancer, but do you know that the tumor is not the bad guy? We don't look at it like that. And I know a lot of people would be shocked even hearing that, because they demonize the tumor. Even cancer is not the bad guy. The tumor is actually the protective mechanism that your body uses to try and keep you alive as long as it can. So let me give you an example. If there are damaged cells, let's say in somebody's brain, and it's being damaged by different toxins and lifestyle, diet, and all of these things, and maybe some physical trauma also. And what's going to happen is that body's going to collect all of those damaged cells and it's going to put it in what I like to call like a balloon, because it knows that if it does not do this, these cells will have the ability to roam the body and alter other cells that were once healthy and turn them into damaged cells or cancer cells. So the body will host them and try to keep it by itself. And it puts it in a little balloon, and that's called a tumor. Okay, so your body is trying to protect you, because without the tumor, you would have been dead a long time. So it's trying to keep you alive, hoping that you finally decide to do the necessary things based on your diet and your lifestyle so that your body can get rid of this tumor, because the body knows how to get rid of the tumor. And what happens now, that tumor will be benign. And then after some time, it may become harmful. It may become malignant. And the body can actually hold a tumor for up to 20 years before it becomes cancerous. That's a very long time the body gives us to fix our lifestyle and our habits. That's a very long time. But sadly, most people don't ever address it or fix it. And then it turns into cancer. So then when we do biopsies to see if it's cancerous or not, a biopsy comes in. I hate to say it, but it comes in, and this is the balloon, and it kind of punctures the balloon, and it opens it, exposes it. And so it goes against normal physiology, which your body's trying to do to protect you. And now that cancer has the ability to metastasize, spread, and affect other organs or systems that were healthy before. Okay. So the body's never working against us. It's always working for us. It has the natural ability to heal itself. It's a God-given ability to heal itself. And it needs our help. And when we give the body the right conditions, it fixes everything. So I oftentimes tell people, like, your body does not know the names of diseases. Your body only knows homeostasis, and that's the goal where we all should want to be. That's where every system and organ is functioning 100%. That's what we call balance or equilibrium. Most people are not there. Most people are outside of homeostasis, and that's disease state. And your body will only know homeostasis, or if you're in that or you're outside of that. And when you give your body the right conditions, your body will fix everything. Everything. It's not going to fix this and leave that. It will fix everything. So sometimes when patients come in initially and they tell me of their symptoms and some things that are going on with them, but they don't tell me everything. And then somewhere down the line on their wellness program, they would say, hey, doc, I didn't tell you about this. This used to happen to me, but I realized that went away. That doesn't happen anymore. And I'm like, well, I wish you have said it before. Sometimes it's embarrassing, so they don't share it in the beginning. But that's just how awesome your body is. Because you're giving it the right conditions now, you're taking care of it. your body will fix even the things you did not tell me about.
Mm-hmm.
We have awesome systems, right? So we
Wow.
just got to work along with it. So let's say inflammation, it's at the root of every disease and every disorder. Cancer is an inflammatory disease. It creates a lot of inflammation. And wherever inflammation goes long term, cancer follows. So if somebody comes in with stomach cancer, I already know before talking to them that they had a history of a lot of digestive issues. Maybe it showed up as acid reflux, bloatiness, indigestion, heartburn, constipation, whatever it is. They had a history of that. And because it was never properly addressed, now inflammation was going there. And long term, it will turn into cancer. So we never want chronic inflammation in the body. We always want to look at where's this inflammation coming from? Your body's not making a mistake. Why is my body responding this way? What is triggering my immune system? And when you find that and you remove that trigger, you reduce the inflammation, you remove the inflammation. And now once that's removed, your body can heal that area.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dr. Smith, this is good information because what I'm seeing here is we're talking more preventative. This can help us or marriages to prevent it before it gets to that point. But one thing, I love what you said. It's only 5% of cancer is genetic. And usually when you go to the doctor, they will ask, did your mother have cancer? Did your dad have cancer? Or, and so forth. But with it being only 5%, it means then we don't have to, or it doesn't have to necessarily be an inheritance. It's by our epigenetic. Now, that being said, when a person would have had cancer, sometimes they beat the cancer and they are so excited. I beat it. But within a year, 2 years or more, they find themselves with an aggressive return of that cancer. So when if left or sometimes it just can't anything cannot be done and it's too late and we end up losing a spouse. Give us some guidance as to when a person who is dealing with cancer um, become cancer free. How can they maintain rather than falling right back in the same trap and then losing their lives?
Okay, so oftentimes when the conventional route is the route that you take as a cancer treatment, it just targets the cancer cells. Okay, and while targeting the cancer cells, it also targets healthy cells. We know that because it cannot differentiate between good and bad cells, so it just kills everything and then hope that you can recover and make new cells. Now the thing is, it's not fixing the underlying problem. It's not fixing like why you got cancer in the first place. So those underlying issues and conditions are still there. And when you give that tree enough time to come back around again, that's cancer again. That's cancer again because they remove the cancer, but they never remove the problem. And so that's what people need to work on. And so I'm never happy when I see somebody ringing a bell and I know that that's the only route that they took. I'm not totally happy because I'm like, oh boy, this is going to come back again. And when it comes back, for some people, it'll take longer. And for some people, it's so quick. It's like weeks, it's months sometimes. And when it comes back, the cancer is so aggressive that even chemotherapy, radiation won't work on it the second time, most times. And that's because you went back to the same lifestyle that got you there, you went back to it. So if you put these genes in the same environment, the same thing is going to happen. I like to use biblical scriptures with everything. Every time Jesus healed somebody, he would say, go your way and sin no more, lest the worst will come upon you. So in other words, don't go back to the same lifestyle, don't go back to the same diet. You have to change everything, least the worst will come upon you. Cancer
I
comes
like
back
that, Dr. Smith.
very, very aggressive.
I like that.
Yes. So when you look at cancer, you have to look at what we call the 10 terrains. So 10 different factors. And oftentimes, none of those factors are looked at. So we know, well, not everybody know this, but a lot of people are coming to realize this, that sugar feeds cancer. Sugar feeds
Yeah.
cancer. But oftentimes the patient is told that your diet has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with your cancer. And that's not true. Your diet has everything to do with your cancer. Cancer loves sugar. There's a test called a PET scan, PET scan. That's where they would put glucose in your system, radiated glucose molecules in your system, not sugar. And they would observe on a screen to see how fast cells would absorb the sugar. Normal healthy cells would absorb that sugar at a much slower rate. Cancer cells absorb it very, very quickly. So if the cells in somebody's, let's say, pancreas is absorbing the sugar molecule very, very quickly, then that's an indication that the person has pancreatic cancer, whichever part of your body. So that's a clear indication that if you're eating sugar, if you're eating a diet that's a high carb diet or a starchy diet, then you're feeding cancer cells. You're suppressing your immune system. And now you're going to wind up with cancer. So we have to look at that. So that's blood sugar balance. I cannot express enough how many people may not be diabetics. But when we test them initially, they still have elevated blood sugar problems, enough to still cause cancer and other chronic conditions as well. You have to look at that toxic burden as well. You have to look at the gut microbiome. Yes, your gut affects everything because our entire system is connected. You want to look at that immune system function as well. I oftentimes say that cancer is an immune system problem. So the difference between someone who's diagnosed with cancer and someone who may never be diagnosed with cancer is always that immune system. Because
Mm.
that immune system is our protective system that God gave us to prevent cancer. And also, if you have cancer, it's meant to fight cancer for you, but only if it's strong, only if it's not compromised. Oftentimes, I say God gave us our own chemotherapy on the inside, and that's called our immune system. So we have it. And it's so much better because it knows how to differentiate between a good cell and a bad cell. So what it will do as it go out and check that body, if it comes across an unhealthy cell, it creates what we call apoptosis, cellular death. It causes that cell to commit suicide. It just gets rid of it. When it comes across a healthy cell, it will not touch it. That's amazing, right? So it
Wow.
knows the difference, whereas chemotherapy does not know that. So it's going to just kill everything in its way, right?
Wow.
So we have to work on strengthening that immune system even before cancer, even while someone is going through cancer, and even after cancer. Because if not, the train is going to come back around, sadly.
So, Dr. Smith, what can the spouse, the healthy spouse, how can that healthy spouse help the spouse that is ill? How can he or she find the right food to help that one that is suffering perhaps cancer?
Okay, first to address that, I would like to say first understand what that person is going through. I've seen so many situations where or cases where one individual was fighting cancer and dealing with cancer, and the spouse did not think a healthy diet was necessary. Where even when that patient was trying to eat healthy, the healthier spouse was kind of forcing the other partner to eat donuts, to eat cake, and saying that
Um,
it's not going to affect you. They
Wow.
have to first understand that diet is foundation and diet is everything. And another way that you can support that spouse is to change your diet as well. Change your diet. A little girl came in with cancer. She was just, I think, 9 years old at the time. And her mom is telling her she can't eat Wendy's, she can't eat fast foods, right? Because I told her we have to totally clean up this diet. But the mom was eating Wendy's right on the side of her. We have to support one another. If it's not good for her, it's definitely not good for you as well. You don't know if cancer is at your door and you're the next diagnosis.
Mm,
So the way that we can support the next party or the next partner is by becoming healthier ourselves, by changing our diet as well. You know,
mm.
I have a sister, she has 47 food allergies, a whole bunch. And her
Wow.
husband, he doesn't know his food allergies because he haven't had them tested yet. I pray he does that soon. But he's so quick to tell her, oh, you can't eat that. That's your food allergy. Oh, you can't. But he's eating it. So sometimes we have to support that person by letting them see that we're living this lifestyle as well, that we're on the journey as well. We're taking care of ourselves. And then we can better be able to take care of them.
Wow, that is, Dr. Chaplain Sweden, this is really good because
Yes,
we
very.
cannot just help our spouse by telling them you eat that, but then I'm watching you eat a nice juicy bamboo crack counter or what have you, and longing to eat it. But if
That's
they eat
why
the
that's why
food,
I had to say ow.
yes, yes, because we
Yeah,
have to help them. This is good. This is good.
yes, yes. I have a question. I you said that the body can hold a tumor up to 20 years, right? But you
Yes.
also said that a biopsy, um, when you have a biopsy and they stick the by whatever it is they're doing, right? That it causes that whatever in there to spread to the rest of your body. So what option should you do instead of having the biopsy?
Now, when it comes to that, I can only speak for myself. If
Okay.
I, God forbid, but if I was to wind up with a tumor
Mm-hmm.
and they say to me it might be cancerous, I am going to act as if I already have cancer and I'm going to start to do the necessary stuff
Okay.
because you're not going to biopsy me. You're
All
not.
right.
I'm going to do a
Yes.
full immune panel because you can do that. You can test your immune system to see where it is at. And depending
Mm-hmm.
on where your CD4 and your CD8 cells are at, your B cells, your natural killer cells, your T cells, depending on where they are at, that alone indicates that you have cancer. Now, it's not a diagnostic test, but it can still suggest that you may have cancer cells processing in your body. For me, I would just start to really dive in and do the necessary stuff when it comes to lifestyle and diet and comprehensive testing. And when I retest that, I'm looking to see those numbers change. Okay, because the
Yeah.
body knows how to kill cancer cells and the body knows how to get rid of a tumor. So you can
Okay.
do it.
Sorry.
Sorry.
What about a prostate, a swollen prostate? And one my husband had a swollen prostate before, and it's coming down. His I think it's PC or whatever, though,
Yes,
it's
say.
coming down. But when he was attending doctor, he had to go every month to a doctor to get, and they told him that he was supposed to get a biopsy. Now, me being a prayer lady, asked, prayed, and asked God. While the doctor talking to him, I'm in there because I went with all his visit with him. And I was in there. I said, now God, you guys say. So God said he's not going to get this biopsy. So when we were coming home, because we were living in Turks and Caicos at that time, when we were coming home, the doctor got mad because we said that we were coming and he wouldn't be our doctor anymore, right? And so
Right.
he said, well, no, first he started to write up this thing for us to go to Jamaica for him to get this biopsy. And I say, now God, and I right there and sitting down, I say, now God, you tell me he ain't going there. And he ain't doing that, you know? And so when he started writing it up, I knocked my husband, telling him to tell him, well, we ain't going there because we going back home to Nassau, and we came back home and he never had to get it. But then after coming back, now what you saying to is It's a good thing he did not get it, because if
Yes.
he had gotten it, he might not be here with us today.
Yes, in my opinion, for sure. So the swelling of the prostate, that happens a lot in men as they get older. So we think that's a normal thing. It's not normal, and we should never confuse normal with common. It's just common, but it's not normal. It just
No.
means as men get older, they're really getting sicker. That's what it means, not age. It's just that they're getting sicker. Their toxic burden is increasing. Their blood sugar levels are probably going more out of whack. That gut microbiome is not stabilized, more inflammation. So inflammation causes swelling. So anytime you hear that something is swollen, something is hurting, something feels
Yeah.
warm, something is red, all of these are signs of inflammation. So inflammation in that prostate can cause enlargement. And remember, I said in the beginning, wherever inflammation goes and stays long term, it can develop into
Mhm.
cancer. So yes, it can lead to that. But you have to look at what is creating that inflammation. And for men, one of the biggest things that creates that prostate enlargement is going to be sugar. It's sugar, it's metabolic health. Okay. So
Okay.
even
Oh.
if someone is
The-
not diabetic, they still
First of
have
all,
to
let me.
go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Smith. You're listening to the Love Bay um, radio, where we have our guests on, Dr. Lashanta Smith from Trichology and Wellness Center here in Nassau, Bahamas. And to our listening audience, should you have a question or you have a comment that you wish to make, please call us or text us on 437-778-3299. That's WhatsApp. Or and you're listening to Love Bay Afrobeat Music Radio Talk Show, the number one African Caribbean diaspora online radio in Canada. So if you want to, you can click subscribe, and join us for this time of talk. Again, 437-778-3299. What's up? Or join in the conversation with your questions or comments by texting us on WhatsApp. So, Dr. Smith, you said that cancer does not show up overnight.
It
But
does not.
recently, I've seen relationships where one party go to the doctor and all of a sudden they got the news that you have cancer. No previous sign or anything that there was cancer. So, based on what I'm hearing from you with inflammation, we ignore that as something simple, but it's not a simple thing. So, wherever you see inflammation, is that a sign that something is there?
Right. It's a sign that you're on a pathway. And symptoms are never normal. Symptoms are always going to be your body's form of communication telling you that something is wrong. So there are three stages of life. The first one is homeostasis that I mentioned before, where everything is working well, where we all want to be. The next stage is what we call adaptive physiology. So that's where you're not in the disease stage, you're not diagnosed, but you're not completely healthy because you're not in homeostasis. So right there is where you would have a whole bunch of symptoms. Maybe you have migraine, maybe you have chronic fatigue, maybe you have insomnia, maybe you're constipated. You know, those symptoms that people deal with from day to day, and they just take something and they feel bad in the moment and it comes back. So it comes back because you never fix the underlying problem. So your body has to send that message again to you. So that's adaptive physiology, where your body's just shouting at you, especially when the symptom becomes more intense and more chronic. Now your body's shouting because it was whispering before.
My
And you
Lord.
listen. And so now the next stage of life is disease state, pathology. So that's where you're now diagnosed. And so a lot of times you see people would come in with a recent lab report and they said, well, my lab report came back normal. You know, I was told that it's normal, everything is fine. But yet they tick almost every symptom on our symptom checklist. So are you really fine? Or is your body trying to tell you something different? And that's what we have to listen to. We have to listen to the communication, because your body, if everything is fine, your body will not communicate. But if it's talking, we have to listen. And most times people don't listen. And when we reach for a pharmaceutical, That's your way of telling your body, shut up,
Mhm.
shut up. And when we tell the body, shut up, we pay a price for it in the long run because your body was just trying to help you. Now you're trying to silence it in the wrong way. So we know that medicine was never designed to heal. It was never intended to heal. Now, I'm not anti-medicine because sometimes in some emergency situations, it's needed to save that life. Okay. But outside of that, it can never rebuild a system. That's your body's ability, and you have to support it in various ways. So that's why I'm a
Yeah.
big fan of functional medicine too.
Mhm. This is this is really good. And we got one of our listeners said to they're
Yes.
thanking us. Dr. Francis, thank you too for listening in.
Yes. Thank you.
And Dr. Smith, this is a timely topic because in some relationship you're dealing with one spouse that is ill, and because of our lifestyle, as you've said, it's based on our environment. Our environment is the breathing ground that will cause cancer, I imagine. So one spouse may be well, but before the other one is gets two spouse sick. And it often seems I always believe, or my belief, that it's in the food that we eat. I always thought it was in the food.
Yeah.
People believe it's the water. Some people believe it's the genes. But usually, when you have two spouses with the same problem, can you speak to that? Help us, because it has to be something that is causing both of us to have the same condition.
Yes, that can happen oftentimes because if it's two spouse, they're in the same environment, they're in the same house. So same, sometimes there can be environmental stresses, and they're both in that environment. And of course, because they're in the same house, they're eating the same way like 90% of the times. You're cooking one meal, everybody's going to eat that. So everybody's going to be affected. And that's why you can see both parties getting sick because of that environment. Even when it comes to mold toxicity, that's a mycotoxin. If there's mold in your house, and oftentimes we call mold an unseen enemy, because by the time as you see it, it's already too late. It's already in your system. And it's a carcinogen, it's a cancer causing agent. Now, not everyone is sensitive to mold, but a lot of people are. And so that's one that is not talked about. We could talk about the diet all day, but diet is kind of like the low hanging fruits. If you want to go a little bit higher, you have to look at that environment. And if that environment is a moldy environment, that's going to create cancer too. And not just cancer, sometimes autoimmune conditions, sometimes other chronic health challenges as well. So if both parties are living in that house, they're both exposed to some chronic health issues, including cancer. And then we know they're eating alike as well, too. And then sometimes they're sharing the same gut microbiome, too, because oftentimes we do a stool test, right, which is a gut test. So it shows me from food enters your mouth until it leaves your rectum and all the organs that are playing a role in that indigestion. And it can also show like gut infections because they also create inflammation and they can lead to cancer. So parasitic infection, a bacterial infection, a yeast infection. If you have a parasite stuck in your breast tissues as a woman, that's going to manifest into cancer because that's creating inflammation right there. And it's going to alter those cells, and then that's going to turn into cancer. So sometimes you see spouses, when I compare like two of their stool tests, it looks exactly the same.
Oh,
So you
wow.
share the same gut microbiome as well. And that's why we encourage partners to become healthy together. If a husband comes in, I'm like, we're going to get started with you. Let's try to get your wife in on this journey as well, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what work you put in, because you're connecting in various ways, her gut microbiome is going to affect you still, no matter how clean you eat. And vice versa. If a female comes in, like you got to get that partner in. You got to get them in because they share a lot of stuff. And so that's why they can see the same diseases as well, too. Or maybe they both can experience chronic health conditions.
Listen, I am almost lost for word. because now we can understand why so many people are being sick. Because we eat bad. Let's face
Oh
it, we
yes.
eat bad. I
Okay.
am one. I'm guilty. I got my two hands up. We eat bad. So, in order for us to begin to turn this thing around and to prevent chronic illness that is causing a lot of strain on the relationship or causing a lot of strain on your spouse, all we have to do is begin to. And then you have some people, Dr. Smith, they said that I was eating healthy all my life. And I've been making sure I didn't eat this and I didn't eat that. Now we need to speak to those people because I can hear them in the background saying, I've eaten healthy, but here I'm found with cancer. How can we help those persons?
Okay, so I like that question in two ways I can answer that. The first one is, who told you you were eating healthy? How do you know you were eating healthy? Oh, because I was
All
eating
right.
salad most of the times. But what if your salad is poisoning you? What if your lettuce and your tomatoes is
Wow.
causing inflammation? So oftentimes I say no one is eating healthy unless they have their foods tested. And that's why we're big on this
Wow.
allergy test. And it's not the anaphylactic reactions we're looking for, not that part of the immune system, not immediate allergies that you just eat the food and you can't have it because you break out in hives or your airwaves close up. Not those ones, because only 5% of the population actually have those forms of allergies. But 95% of the population have what we call a delayed food reaction. It's more hidden. So you eat the lettuce, you eat the tomato, and you feel absolutely fine in the moment. But it's leading you towards cancer. Or maybe it's creating that insomnia that you deal with every night, or that chronic fatigue, or hypertension, or diabetes. Yeah. So you're not eating healthy unless you have your foods tested. No two diets should be alike. We all should have our own unique diet. Like in the past, I suffered from a lot of inflammatory chronic conditions. And that's what actually led me to going back to school and opening my practice and being able to help other likewise sufferers after healing myself naturally. But the thing is, I thought I was eating healthy at one point. I was eating foods like kale and didn't know that that was creating the joint pains that I was having,
Oh.
arthritis. And kale is the king of all grains, but it was poison for me. Our body does not know foods. It only know if it's creating inflammation or if it's reducing inflammation. And so if I give somebody my diet that helped to heal me, that will probably make them sicker, because no two diets are alike. Even if I have a set of twins in front of me, their diet should be different. And it's all based on testing, because you'll never be able to identify those foods just by eating them. They're hidden,
Oh,
Mm.
the chronic conditions. So that's one. Who told that person they were eating healthy? Who winded up with cancer?
mm,
The next one, the next answer I would give is, food is not the only thing that makes us sick. What if your diet was good, but you were dealing with a lot of mental and emotional stress? Stress causes cancer too, especially in females. And stress is so detrimental for our health that is actually worse than a bad diet. So if you're
Wow.
eating bad and you're dealing with a lot of stress, that's just a double whammy. But stress will always outbeat that diet, no matter how clean it is, and stress can cause cancer too. And
oh,
then you have
wow.
to look at, maybe that person is living in a moldy environment or working in a moldy environment while eating healthy. That can still lead to cancer. Maybe that person has a parasitic infection. It doesn't matter how clean you eat, even knowing your food allergies, if you have parasites, your clean diet is not even going to address the parasites. That's a whole
Mm.
different approach. So it's so many things that can lead to it, and you have to peel back every single layer to really be healthy.
I'm lost for word, Doc. I'm really, really lost for word because I've
Yes.
heard it before. I've heard it before. Someone she was eating healthy and now she's dead. So, in essence, no one have to really die with cancer. I feel then it's knowledge, is knowing what to do
Yes.
and how. For myself, I love me the peas and rice. I love bread. I love And just Friday night, I had a nice, well, big bread, just a roll, but it was kind of heavy, really good. And while I was eating that roll, man, that was so, so good. But that night, I had to go and look for something to calm my stomach because it
Oh, wow.
just made me feel heavy. So sometimes we have our body can tell us, look, you ate that and that was not good for you, and a reaction right there, right away. But sometimes we ignore it because I've heard someone said one time, I was advising them about something that they was doing that they should not be eating. And he said to me, he said, something got to carry you, so I'm going to eat it. But you know, if if you don't have to be carried right then, it's better to prevent it.
But the thing is, I think that's just an emotional justification to do something that's wrong or to eat something that's wrong. That
Yeah.
phrase, because I heard a lot of people say that. But the
Hmm.
sad part is sometimes you don't just die, you suffer for a very long time, for many, many
Mm,
years. And
yes.
nobody wants to suffer. And then the same person who says something have to carry you give them one bad diagnosis and they will clean out their bank account to live.
So
But
true.
Yes.
didn't you say something have to carry you? So just let it carry
So
you.
true.
So it's not
So
true.
true.
People don't really mean that. It's just an emotional justification that they use so that they can eat wrong. Okay.
And
But
I thought I thought I was eating so healthy, not eating red meat,
yeah,
not only drinking most water and everything, but boy, I need to go back to the drawing board now.
yeah. Sometimes you got to go back to it. But food is by far emotional. People are emotionally attached to food. If I have a couple in the front of me and I ask them to abstain from intercourse for, let's say, a week, the woman will be fine with it. She'll be like, okay, I can do it. The guy will be kind of like, huh, anyway, I'll do it just for this time, right? But if I tell them to fast for 7 days, they will be upset with me. Okay. That's how emotionally attached we are to food. So
Yes.
it's hard to help someone to heal if they're not willing to give up what's making them sick. You
Mm,
have to give it up. And I don't just take from people, I replace. So I like bread myself, but we can't have these bread, but we can have this one. So that's always an alternative. It's always about swapping, it's always about ingredients. So we bypass the toxins, we bypass the chemicals, we bypass the preservatives, and even the food allergies. And there's always another alternative, and you can still enjoy your bread. You can still enjoy your ice cream. I eat chocolate every day. Every day. I'm drinking a soda right now, Coca Cola. Alternatives. And everything that I put in my body, an alternative to, the ones that are toxic, your taste buds are not just enjoying it, but it's also feeding your cells. It's feeding your body. It's nourishing you at the same time. So it's an easy way to do this. You don't have to just eat bland food and say, I'm eating healthy. You can enjoy your foods. One patient came in and she said a previous doctor said to her, you have to eat healthy. And so she said, okay, so what is eating healthy? Because they only say you have to eat healthy. They don't tell you what it is.
Hmm.
What is eating healthy? And he said, let me say this to you for you to understand. Whatever tastes good, spit it out. I was
What?
really offended because that means that eating healthy means that your food should taste bad. That's very
Mm-mm.
discouraging. Nobody's going to want to eat healthy if you tell them they have to eat food that tastes bad. My food tastes very well. I love food. Okay. So you don't have to not enjoy your food to be eating healthy. You can very much enjoy your food. It can be tasty. You can have almost anything that you like. You like cookies, you like cake, whatever it is, you can still have it. There's always an alternative.
mm.
Always.
So, Doc, thank you. But a person that is dealing with that cancer in the relationship, and it's really taxing. It's taking their finances. I believe I'm hearing the simple way of it is to try find out what is the problem
Yeah. Well,
and go to the healthy. I was I saw something the other day. This young man said he stayed off food, I think, for about 3 months. Salad, everything. And he drank water, and it was something else. And he said that cured all of his illnesses, everything that he was dealing with.
Wow.
He stayed off food, everything, because I think he had diabetes along with whatever else. But just drinking juice, natural juice, and water um, brought him off all of the various illnesses. But like you say, we are passionate or we love our food. The hardest thing to break is the food because I had a sister died with cancer. And one day when I saw her meal that they brought to her, macaroni, peas and rice, Bahamians we eat all the bar. And I'm like,
Mm,
you shouldn't be eating this food. But
no,
the thing is, they were saying this is what she wanted, but it didn't help her situation. She died.
right. It would take it to a grave faster. And, they still don't see the connection with food and cancer because on an oncology ward, they would give out donuts and soda,
Oh,
you know.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
But something you said that was so profound, and that's fasting. So anyone, I would say to anyone, when you first get that cancer diagnosis or wherever you are on your journey, the
Mhm.
first thing you want to do is stop eating. Fasting is the biggest game changer against cancer. If you're not eating, your cancer cells won't have anything to eat and they die off. You
Mm.
starve it. You starve it. And then you put the body in a state called autophagy. Autophagy is a self eating state because the cancer cells, because your healthy cells won't have anything to eat, it starts to eat up the cancer cells. But nobody talks about fasting because there's no money in it. There's
Ah,
no money.
So
Nobody
true.
makes money when people fast. Not the
Yes.
medical field, not the natural field, not the pharmaceutical companies, not even the supplement companies. Not even the food stores. Nobody makes money when people fast. So they don't talk about fasting in relation to cancer, but fasting is one of the biggest changer for cancer.
wow.
So stop.
So a person that is dealing with cancer, doc, that is maybe at a fourth stage, does the fasting help them as well?
It can still help them. There are other things that they need to be doing, but yes, it can definitely still help them. And even at fourth stage cancer, I still believe that there's hope. Still believe that there's hope once you're doing the right things.
Yes. Well, wow. So for those in marriages, husband, wives that are suffering with, have a spouse that is suffering with maybe cancer or even some other disease, you need to check your diet again, check, see what you're doing, or check your environment. That's what I'm hearing in all of this from the doctor. So I believe that it will help you with the burden that you're going through because nothing
Yeah.
hurts us more than having to deal with a sick spouse. It takes away your money, it takes away your time, it stresses you out. So rather than having to go through all that stress, I don't want to sound like the doctor, eat healthy, but let us check ourselves. I would
Yeah.
say let us check ourselves to know where
Yes.
we
Yeah.
are and to know what we have to do. We cannot tell you what to, I cannot tell you what to do, but check ourselves. You know,
Right.
I had a friend that went to the doctor. She came back, she got a very good report, and she was so happy. And within a matter of weeks, she took in with this severe pain in her stomach. Went to the hospital. They did all the tests and checked, and she had fourth stage cancer in the stomach. Within a matter of weeks, she was dead.
Oh, wow.
But she got a
Oh,
good medical report. And I believe there are many of our listeners out there. You may have had the
yeah.
same thing. You got yourself a good report and you felt good about it. And then here you are faced with something else. So we need to check ourselves to know. And I love the test that tells you your allergy test. You may say there's no relation. I love the allergy test because It is a test that also helped my mom when she was gravely ill. When they did the test, they were able to tell her this person is gravely ill and this is what had to be done. So know your body. Don't just rely on a good report that comes back. Take it a step further.
Yeah.
And Dr. Sweden, I don't know what you want to say before we
Well,
allow.
I know we only have a couple minutes more. What about the colon? Getting it clean and all of those, things like that. What about doing that part of it also?
Right. So that's your gut, your lower GI. And
Hmm.
I love coffee enemas. A lot of people may not be open to doing that. But if you have impacted stool or you're not getting, we should be getting about 12 inches of stool in 24 hours. It can be all at one time or it can be at different times. But 12 inches of stool in 24 hours, if that's not you, everything is not coming out. Okay. And so when
Okay.
that stone backs up, that's going to create inflammation. That's going to create a lot of bacterial infection as well. That can lead to colon cancer. And then if you're piling in toxic foods on top of that, that's going to create more inflammation. So we want transit time to be ideal, not too slow, also not too fast, because that's going to be diarrhea. Coffee
Mm.
enemas can help that. Also, colonic. Some people call it hydrotherapy. Just get it out. Get it out. But you have to start also by what you're putting in as well. And then making sure your stomach is working fine, your pancreas, and also your gallbladder, because all three of them, they play a role in digestion. Yeah.
Now I have to
Very
go
good.
back to my husband and I have to apologize and tell him some of those things he was telling me, honey, we can't eat. I have to say, oh, yeah, I heard it from the doctor.
You know what, we have an additional 10 minutes, so we're going to talk. Let's take this time. What about men that are dealing with prostate cancer? Is it
Mhm.
that they have to get to that stage where it become cancerous? Because I heard you talk about prostate going swelling earlier, but it doesn't
Mhm.
have to be cancerous if you don't go through that biopsy, I believe. So tell us about men that are dealing with the prostate cancer. How can they be helped?
Okay. So it's always when it comes to men and their prostate health, it's always going to be about sugar and inflammation. Men love sugar, and that's the reason why when they just do a sugar detox, it changes so many things for them. Sugar is the worst thing for a guy's health, and for women, the worst thing is going to be stress. So when we give up stress, we heal. When they give up sugar, they heal. So
Wow.
making sure that when they test that fasting glucose, you want a complete blood sugar profile, not just looking at that glucose or not just looking at that A1C. So you want to have that tested at least annually or every 6 months. You want your fasting glucose to be under 90. You want your fasting
Okay.
insulin to be under 6. A lot of people have elevated insulin, and that's a growth hormone. It makes things grow. So if that is elevated and that's not being tested, so you don't know, that can have an effect on your prostate. Also, you want to look at triglycerides. That's another sugar marker. You want that to be under 100. So that's how your liver converts the sugar and stores it as fat in your liver. And then that A1C, healthy levels are always going to be under 5.3. That keeps you healthy. And I know you have to be over 5.7 to be considered pre-diabetic. But at 5.6, that's still a little too much sugar and that can still affect your prostate being a guy. So you need to get that under 5.3. Also, you want to have your hormones checked annually, at least annually, because the hormones also has a negative effect on the prostate. So if you're more estrogen dominant as a man, and I see that all the time, testosterone is lower, estrogen is coming higher. That estrogen is an anabolic hormone. It makes things grow, causes enlargement. So you have receptors for estrogen in the prostate, being a man. And if that estrogen is elevated and you have a problem with estrogen detoxification and clearance, that's going to go right to your prostate and create that swelling and that enlargement. So hormonal imbalance too can have a negative effect on the prostate. And then another one we look at called DHT, dihydrotestosterone. If a man is taking more preference towards that, that also has a negative effect on the prostate and the scalp hair. So we oftentimes see male baldness where they kind of lose the crown. So that's that DHT. It's not just affecting the crown hair, but it's also affecting the prostate as well. And over time, it can become cancerous. So watching your sugar, reducing inflammation, and also making sure your hormones remain balanced.
So then if a man began to see his prostate swelling, then it doesn't mean that he has cancer, but he can now work to keep himself safe. That's what I'm
Yes.
hearing.
Yes. Yes. Another one we can look at is
But oftentimes men do not love going to the doctors. How do
they don't. I know they don't.
I think we have a delay in coming across. But I was saying men do not like doctors. How do we help them? Wives, this is a task that we have to deal with. Doc, how can we help
Yes.
them?
They don't. But I would say, in my experience, they don't like conventional doctors, but they do like me. So
Oh,
come in and I find that because I often say I'm going to turn this clinic into an all male clinic because men are so much more compliant. I get them to put in the work, and I
oh,
find that they do so much better than the women because they're laser focused. So anything they put their mind on doing, they do it, and they do it very, very well. And the way that I get them, when I start talking about testosterone, they lean in. And when I tell them, oh, if we fix the sugar problem and we reduce the inflammation and we do this, we do that, your testosterone is going to come up. Every guy wants to hear that. And so they put in the work and I retest them and I show them that it came up and it gives them more momentum. And now it easily becomes a lifestyle for them.
oh,
Okay.
that's good. So
Yeah.
that's one way to get them. Tell them that testosterone is going to
That's how you get
improve,
them.
and they will see the doctor.
That's how you get them.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
But medicine
But
doesn't have the
something you
tools.
said.
Medicine doesn't have the
Go ahead.
tools to elevate that testosterone naturally. They don't have the tools, and so they can't really even promise them that they'll help them to elevate it. So on my end, because I know how to naturally elevate testosterone for men, I can promise them that, and I get them to put in the work. I get them to show up for every appointment as well, and they love
Wow.
coming in. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Now that's
Mhm.
because all over you have. I heard this guy told the doctor. He said, "Doc, I don't go to doctor. I haven't been to doctor for years," and the doctor was upset. you know, but they do not like doctors. But something
No.
you said men's problem is sugar, women's problem is stress.
Yes.
So for relationship, then the man should not stress the woman, and the woman should make sure keep your husband off sugar, and then our problem is solved.
Right. And
Wow.
another thing, if the woman deprives that man of sugar, then he's going to stress her less because sugar, too much sugar for a man, causes him to stress that woman more.
Yes, that's so.
It's so, it's
Oh,
so, so yeah, it all starts with
oh
the
my.
sugar. Mhm.
Okay.
Oh wow. Because man, at least my husband like ice cream and cake,
Oh, wow.
but so we have to find alternative.
Yeah, get him the healthier one.
Yeah, I don't
Mm.
have that problem because my husband don't like sweets, so
But sometimes I hear many times people say, "Oh, I don't like sweets. I don't like cake and candies and cookies, and I don't put sugar in my tea." But when you check their sugar levels, it's still elevated.
yeah.
All markers are elevated. So sometimes that
Okay.
sugar can be coming from the rice, bread, pasta,
Someplace.
potatoes. So that's what men love mostly: rice, bread, pasta, potatoes, and that's where sugar is coming from.
Yeah. Yes.
And that is why I cut the sugar from my tea. But I have yet to be converted with the rice and the bread and the cookies. So I am trying. I'm trying to you know to treat my
Well,
body well.
I tried honey. the pure honey. I don't know if that substitute, could help any bit, but
It's a
Yeah.
good place to start, a good swap in the beginning. But if somebody has metabolic issues, they want to cut out honey as well. Honey is good, it's very good for infections, but I wouldn't want someone to be consuming that every day. A better
okay.
one would be monk fruit. Now, monk fruit is something you can consume every day. You can put as much as you want in your tea or your lemonade or your coffee, and it's sweet in the mouth, but not in the blood. So monk fruit. Another one is called xylitol, erythritol, and stevia. Stevia has an aftertaste, so some people don't like it. But the other three
Yeah.
that I mentioned doesn't really have an aftertaste. It's almost completely like sugar in
Well,
Okay.
taste.
Doc, this has been an awesome program. We need you to give our listening audience, those that are probably struggling with um, chronic illnesses in the relationship and they are stressed. If it's the woman, I'm sorry because the stress is not helping her if she's looking after her husband. So, what can you say to someone that is now in this state of having to take care of a sick spouse, chronically ill spouse?
Okay. I would say from a spiritual perspective, develop a stronger prayer life. Both parties pray together. And the main thing you should be asking God for is direction. Okay, what direction should I take? Because healing is out there. Healing is there for you. And God already did his part. He will never ask us to do his part, nor will he do our part. There's a job for God and a job for us. He already did his part when he
Yes.
said, by his stripes you were healed. So that's his part. The other part is us. So pray to God for direction. Help is out there for you. Ask God, what direction should I take? You will hear the voice of your teacher of God, and he will tell you which pathway to take. And when you take that pathway, that's going to be your answer. But you first have to be receptive to the voice of God and you have to be obedient. And there's a job for us to do, and it comes through obedience. And sometimes it's going to take consistency as well. So it's not about doing it one day or for 2 days or maybe a week or two and say, I'm not getting better. You have to be consistent with that. He told Naaman to dip 7 times, not one time, 7 times in order to receive healing. So Naaman too had to follow the instructions of God. And so pray to God together, ask him for a clear direction. Which pathway should you take to help fight your cancer or your chronic disease? He will answer you and he will lead you there because healing is available. He's put it there, it's in the land, and it's available for all of us. Just be open and receptive to the voice of God.
Wow, that's very good advice. Couldn't get it any better. And Dr. Francis, I agree with you. And we thank you for listening because I
Yeah.
really believe that there are persons that are in a in a hopeless state and feeling that there is no way out. And I've tried everything. The doctors have done everything. And now the last word they got from the doctors, we can do more. So if you are at that point, I would say to you, like Doc just said, seek direction from God because healing is out there. But we tend to believe sometimes because it's too far gone, there's no more hope. I have a friend
Yes.
right now went through fourth stage cancer, and I look at him the other day, and he's back on his feet again. So let us continue to take care of our bodies, find out what is working for us, what is not working for us, and continue to follow the path of what is working for us. Okay. So we thank you for listening to the Relationship and Marriage Hour with our guest, Dr. Lashanta Smith from the Trichology and Wellness Center here in Nassau, Bahamas. We thank you. We are out of time. And if you wish to reach our Dr. Lashanta, I'm going to ask her to give you some information, and she would be able to, you'd be able to reach her.
Yeah, so the clinic is located in Nassau, Bahamas, and that's number 18 Pargate Road off Village Road. Our contact numbers, landline is 242-394-001. We also have a mobile contact, and you can also, I guess, WhatsApp message us as well. And that number is 242-454-4530. You can also email us at Treatment Room Bahamas. I think it's Treatment Room. Hold on, I can never remember this one. Is Treatment Room BAH@gmail.com. Yeah, so you can email us as well. And we look forward to helping you on your wellness journey and to health restoration.
Can you repeat that mobile number again for us, please, Dr. Smith?
Okay, the mobile number is 242-454-4530.
Thank you so much. And
You're
thank you,
welcome.
our listening audience. You've been listening to the Relationship and Marriage Hour. And we thank you. We'll see you next week. Have a great afternoon.